I'm rolling with FD.
I am rolling with SD.
I'm rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
We are rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
We got alphas and bros in the house.
That's right.
Peace out, my brother.
Woo!
I'm rolling with the F to the D.
Learn something new every day when you're rolling with FD.
We are rolling with FD, baby.
I roll with one person, and that's FD.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
You
I
gotta
love
love
it,
it,
man.
man.
Hey, Renee, who you rolling with?
Rolling with FD.
Hey, Matt.
Rolling with FD.
You don't have to ask. I'm rolling with FD.
My man, C. Bless. Who you rolling with?
I'm rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
That's how you just rolling, right? That's the whole thing, right? You roll with it.
I'm rolling with FD.
Manny and Jeremy, who you rolling with?
We're rolling with FD. We don't want to get our asses kicked.
My man, Dan, the card man. I appreciate you, dog. You gotta let the people know who you rolling with.
Well, obviously I'm rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
Jason Cardboard is rolling with FD.
Rolling with FD.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
How's it going?
Live with Kelvin Z.
How's it going, FD?
How you doing?
Good. I mean, the Mavs are in the finals. Nothing better than that. So what did I tell you when we first met at that show? What did I tell you? I said Mavs in 6 when they were playing OKC.
You did,
and you said no chance. The Shea's going to show Luka who their best point guard is.
Mm-hmm. I did say that.
So,
but Kelvin, I still believe in Shaq.
Yeah, actually, Shea impressed me in that series. So far, I think the best player the Mavs have played in this playoff run has been Shea,
and
not Edwards.
So going into that series, Shea didn't make the playoffs last year. So I looked at his skill set throughout the season. I didn't definitely know what he was going to do in the playoffs.
And Luka didn't make the playoffs either last year.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, hey, congrats to Dallas. I have them picked to beat Boston, and people know out there I'm no Dallas fan. I just look at basketball, and I believe that Lively and some of the other big guys are going to be a problem. I think that's why Boston's bringing back Porzingis.
Well, based on the odds, Boston's a 2-1 favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't. I mean,
but Boston was supposed to beat Golden State 2 years ago.
Well, they weren't favored in terms of the line, but they were favored, I think, heavily by ESPN. It was like 80-20.
Yes.
And, I guess they can't count on the choke factor or the clutch factor in these betting lines.
I can't wait to see what Brown and Tatum do.
Yeah, I mean, the Mavs have a game plan. If they could follow what the Warriors did 2 years ago and it works, let's see.
Especially get guys in transition and in crowds and see them if they turn the ball over or not.
Yeah, but what I hear all the time is Celtics were 2-0 against the Mavs. Oh, and they crushed the Mavs both games. First of all, Minnesota beat the Mavs 3-1. And none of those games were played with their new starting lineup. So
absolutely
if anyone wants to know, like a lot of these people that don't watch the Mavs or don't pay attention to the little details, the Mavs were actually 16-2 since they started on March 7th, which is the date that Jason Kidd said changed their whole season around. Mm-hmm. They've had PJ Washington for a couple of weeks and they had Daniel Gafford for a couple of weeks, but they actually put both of them in the starting lineup and they went 16-2. Guess who the only actually they didn't go 16-2. Let me correct that. They went 16-1 because one of the games is against OKC, but Luka didn't play. So I wouldn't even count that game if Luka's not playing. But the one loss with their full starting lineup in the regular season, guess who that was against? You should know.
It goes to Golden State?
Yeah, it was against Golden State. So Golden State's the only team that beat this new Mavs starting lineup in the past, since March 7th in the regular season.
Hey, they're a problem. They can shoot the ball from the outside. You got 2 future Hall of Fame guards that are running the show that take over third and fourth quarters. And you got big guys down below that are athletic and can bang. It's a hard team.
Yeah, the problem with the Celtics, and I mean, the Mavs played a 5-out team before at OKC, but the problem with OKC was they had Giddey, who the Mavs didn't respect at all. So they just
Not-
left him wide open,
Yep.
put the center on him so Lively and Gafford could protect the rim. I don't know if there's a shooter out there on Boston that the Mavs can do that to. So that's the difficult part. I mean, they might have to just leave someone open and say, you beat us, just like they did with Giddey. I mean, Giddey wasn't even an awful shooter. I think he shot like 34, 35% from three from the season, but they just didn't respect him and left him open. And the problem with Giddey is he wouldn't take it.
He wouldn't take the shot.
Yeah. I mean, if you get a wide open look, no one's within 10 feet of you,
You
take
have
the
to-
shot.
You have to
Yeah.
take it. You gotta make them respect you and step out on you and open up the lane. If you don't do that, then
So you're predicting Mavs, like in how many games?
6.
Okay, that's what I got. I got it in 6. You know, I'm not ridiculous like a lot of these Celtic fans think it's going to be a sweep because of the, of the regular season results. But I mean, the Mavs they're essentially, if you count that 16-1, and they went 12-5 in the playoffs. Their record is right up there. They're like a 70-win, 80-win team. I mean, 80-win, 70 to 72-win team based on those percentages. And keep in mind the playoff records against 3 really, really good teams. OKC being one of them.
Yeah, I've never been one to really consider when you get to the playoffs. I don't really consider regular season wins. If you're
And
one, I don't really care about that.
And I think regular season wins is kind of not fair when you compare the East and the West because the East has some crappy teams. So Boston's beating up 4 times, 5 times Charlotte's and the Washingtons and the Detroits, whereas even the West, the bad teams are Memphis and San Antonio. And I mean, they have Wemby that actually started playing better at the end of the season when he started getting more time. I mean, those were still bad teams in terms of records, but they weren't as easy of cakewalks as Detroit, Washington, Charlotte, those crappy teams in the.
Yeah, you play those teams, you know you have a win that's coming to you. So I wanna introduce you to some. You're well known in the hobby, so it's not like you came on here and people gonna know who you are. But I just want people to know more about you and myself to know more about your background. Can you speak to kind of how you got involved in the hobby, maybe at what age and what brought you to it?
So, I mean, I think I actually just mentioned this in one of Rizzo's introductions for me. By the way, I just noticed that Bulls hat. Did you just put that on for me?
Well, you said Bulls, I had to switch.
Yeah, you see my Pippen jersey.
Yeah, first I had LA on, then I had to switch that out.
Yeah. So I started collecting when I was 10, in like 1986. Went to a kid's birthday party. Everyone got a pack of 86 Topps baseball. I opened it up, and I think we're similar in age to know that back then, in order to know the stats of a baseball player or basketball player, all you got is an almanac and the baseball card or basketball card.
You're absolutely right.
There's no internet you can look up. How much did Ryan Sandberg hit in 1986? You won't know until you get his 87 Topps card. Unless you go to the library and go look up Ryan Sandberg in the almanac, the sports almanac, Back to the Future. Sports almanacs had all the stats, right?
True.
So once I got those cards up, I started looking at the stats. I was like, wow, this is pretty exciting. I get to see all these players, which is the best player out of these cards that I got. And I would look at them and open a pack, and it just got me into wanting to open more and more packs to see which other player did good. And you start putting sets together, start collecting, started going to shows when I moved to LA. So went to Frank and Sons when I was a kid and bought cards. And then I stopped collecting probably right around when I started when I graduated from college and started working. You had other priorities back then. So I stopped collecting until like 2016. So 2016, I had some work related audit issues with I'm a real estate broker. So one of my agents had some issue with the DRE, and they needed us to get audited. And I went to his place to go through the files, and around this house was all these baseball cards from the 80s and 90s. And my eyes lit up. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like there was, literally stuff from, I saw 1980, 81 Topps box with Magic Johnson, rookie year that was sealed. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff that you have here. And turned out his dad owned a baseball card shop, and he was just cleaning out his storage unit, and he had all these cards. And he was like, you know what? You like this stuff so much, take this home and help me sell this. I'm trying to get rid of this stuff on eBay. Okay. So I took that home and then fell in love with cards again and started collecting on my own, and just started with a small PC and went from there. And so 16, 17, I started collecting, I think, Lonzo Balls and Ben Simmons, and then Luka came around, and I was like, I watched a few of his games his rookie year, and I'm like, wow, this guy could be the next superstar.
Came out the gate. Yep.
Yeah. So, and back in the past, I was a Bulls fan, and I was a huge Kukoc fan because he was on the Bulls at that time, and I was like, wow, he kind of reminds me of the passing skills of a taller player like Kukoc. So that's why I was like, damn, this guy looks like he could be the just a better version of him. So that's why I started to, and we were opening a lot of. I mean, 18, 19 was probably the best time where you can actually afford breaks because they were relatively cheap. You could buy it. You could buy an NT box for $750 back then. Now it's like
think about that to today. Yeah,
10x,
mm-hmm.
which is crazy. Maybe 5x, but it was 10x at one point.
That's good. That's good. So talk more about. I know you grew up out here. So I grew up in Chicago. I grew up on the South Side. I'll tell you my story. I started collecting baseball cards in '83. And then at that time, then in about 13, I moved on to autographs. I was still collecting baseball cards. And I was in Chicago, so I could go to the Chicago Sun-Times show on pretty much on every year. And then I could go to the National when it came. It's interesting to me that I think back on the National when I was about 16, 18 years old compared to the National now. There are some things that have changed. There are some things that are exactly the same.
Yeah,
it has not changed. That's not negative. I'm just telling you my experience. And then so I collected. I took time off in college when I didn't have money to collect, and then I started back collecting a little bit after college. Then I started collecting again around the time I went to grad school and got out of grad school. So like in 2006, I lived in Northern California, and I used to go to the shows that were up there in San Jose, stuff like that, get autographs. And at that time, I was primarily focused on autographs. Did a lot of autograph collecting, signed helmets, footballs, jerseys, stuff like that. And then slowly but surely, I started getting back into cards. And then I've worked through cards all the way up until now. Still do some autographs, but primarily card collecting right now.
Yeah, I mean, I actually used to collect autographs too, but then all that junk started piling up. There was no authentication back then when I was chasing autographs.
That's right.
And I just had basketballs of a few guys I remember getting is David Robinson and Charles Barkley, and I didn't know what to do with it, because you can't really sell them without authentication, and there wasn't really a true authentication. I mean, authentication was crap back then, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
You just got a little cert, and you didn't know what that cert belonged to, what item. You could just buy certs and put into an item and say, oh, this is authentic. But yeah, I mean, I used to follow the Bulls bus because I was such a huge Bulls fan during during their title runs. So I mean, I did the autograph thing too.
Yeah, that's where it was back then.
It was fun, actually.
Let's jump into some topics in the hobby. Let me know if you break or do you purchase repacks. If you do, what do you think of them? If you don't, what do you think of them?
So breaking, I used to break a lot back probably until COVID when the prices got crazy. So I would just buy Dallas Mavericks spots to get Luka cards or sometimes I would buy Bull spots and that's about it. Or I think I was chasing Trae Young too, but it somewhat made sense. We all knew we were going to lose money, right? In the long run. I mean, you could hit the jackpot. It's kind of like a lottery system. You might hit some huge card, but we knew we were going to lose. But I could accept getting 80% return on my money because that 20% at entertainment value kept you up for a few hours, and you got to watch something. I think of it as entertainment.
Yeah.
If you think of it as entertainment, like I'm putting away $1,000 today because I want to do a break because I want to have fun opening packs or watching someone else open my packs. That's actually a good way to look at it. But if you're thinking of it trying to make money, there's zero chance I would do it now, just because if you rip $1,000 today, you'll be lucky to get back $200.
True.
It's the other way around. It used to be 80-20, now it's 20-80. So, but I mean, there are some people that get lucky and hit something big, but it's just not something that I'm risk averse to do. I'd rather just buy the card that I want instead.
That's what I do as well. I go after. I think I've been in 2 breaks in my life. It is nothing against breaks. It's just I want to go find that card that I want and the grade that I want, or if I can spot it raw and use what my understanding of what that raw card should look like after doing research, and then try to get it graded and see what I can do with that. I'd rather do that than get involved in a break.
Yeah, and then back then, when you did a break, you would get nice raw cards, and then it made sense. I mean, PSA wasn't charging the way they're charging now, and you know, you can grade. Let's say if I did a break of 18, 19 Prism, and I could grade them for $8 a card.
That's right.
You could sort of, if you get enough PSA 10s back, you could sort of get your money back and break even on these breaks. But now there's zero chance of that happening. Fees are higher for everything.
Mhm.
Auction houses are charging more. Well, actually, they're probably charging the same, but it's just the numbers don't make sense. But I mean, other people that want to do it more, that's something they enjoy. Then go ahead. It's just not something like the repacks that you're talking about. Every
Mhm.
repack I've bought, I've never wanted the card I've gotten, so I
Yeah.
end up selling them back on eBay. And one day I told myself, I was like, this is way too much work just to sell and try to get back a percentage of what I put in.
True.
Right? The enjoyment of watching someone open these packs or getting something big was outweighed by the work of shipping in these cards and taking a loss and getting, dealing with returns on eBay or whatever else it was, especially on low end. I mean, nothing was super high end back then on repacks back then. So it's just like I spent $400 to get $300 back. I have to sell these 8 cards that I got that I don't want.
I know we talked earlier about some of the athletes that you like, but when you're buying cars, can you speak to some of the brands that you're interested in of cars and why?
Well, I usually gear towards the higher end stuff, but I actually think the lower end stuff has greater percentage if you're trying to speculate on a certain player. So let's say I want to buy, I'll just throw out Luca, for example. If you buy out an NT and he went off, on the run he is in, let's say he wins a title, maybe you'll go up to 40, 50%. But the low end stuff, $100 card could easily go to 200,
Yeah.
so you'll double
Yep.
your money.
Yep.
But it's also more work trying to unload it. But I think with all these repackers now buying low end stuff, it's probably easier for them to move. So my advice for people, if they're trying to speculate and buy players of, someone that's going to make a playoff run or something, buy quantity of low end to flip, because it's also easier to move a $100 card than to move a $100,000 card.
So I've heard I watch a lot of content, and I've heard a few content creators talking about repacks ruining shows when they go to a show. What are your thoughts when you see repacks at shows, and have you seen personally any advantageous effects of repacks at a show?
Well, it's twofold. So ruining, it depends who it's ruining for. So
I
if
agree.
if I'm a collector and I just need to unload some inventory, they're paying pretty high percentages versus you trying to sell them on eBay yourself and doing all the work. So that is advantageous to that type of collector. What's not advantageous is, let's say I'm trying to buy cards for my PC or whatever it is. Now I have to pay. I can't go to a dealer and say, hey, I'll give you, let's say he has a $500 card. I'll give you $450 before deal, no problem. Now they're like, I'm not going to sell it to you. I could get $475 from Repacker that's paying 95%. So that hurts those collectors. So those are probably the ones complaining about the repackers hurting the industry, because hurting the hobby, because they're now no longer able to buy cards below comps because there's repackers that's willing to pay almost full comps. But it's also advantageous to you if you're trying to get rid of something to buy something.
That's right.
So
True.
it evens out. I mean, I think people complain about it a lot, but it actually brings, money to collectors that otherwise would be a lot more work. But I also do consigning, so it actually hurts me as a business, because they're like, I don't need to consign with you and wait 2-3 weeks for it to sell on eBay. Now I can just go to a repacker and sell it all, and they'll give me 95% cash, and I don't have to worry.
It's the evolution of the hobby, moves in waves. There are different things that happen at different times, and this is in a somewhat down market. This is an answer for a lot of people still trying to make a profit or move certain cards around.
The question is, how long will this repacking last when people
This is what I think
out?
about.
Yeah.
This is what I think about all the time. How long is this going to last?
Yeah. Because a lot of the repackers are some of them are greedy, where they're going to only give you 40, 50, 60% back on your repacks. And eventually you're sucking up a lot of money that could be, used to buy more cards. And that goes into the repacker.
True. That becomes the opportunity cost for those who are buying.
I mean, it's also the case with a lot of the middlemen that's going to be taken out of the industry with a lot of the new innovations that's happening in the hobby. So let's say you're a flipper. It's harder in terms of, I'm saying, let's say you're flipping wax or whatever it is. Now Fanatics is going to deal directly on their website, and you're not
Mhm.
going to be able to make that money flipping wax because they're going to be cutting it out. But is Fanatics putting money back in the hobby and buying boxes and buying singles? Not as much as the collector that's making some money flipping.
True. And I know with the distributor, so I used to work in sales, and we would create a margin sometimes from a distributor for like pet food by running certain programs. And if Fanatics sets that price, there's no margin made by negotiating a lower price.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people used to just buy wax and speculate and hold it. But if
Yep.
they could buy it directly from someone else, a collector could directly buy it from Fanatics versus your store on eBay, they're going to buy it directly from Fanatics.
Every day.
But if I'm selling, making that sale, I'm making 10, 15%, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to buy more cards.
That's right.
And you're going to buy more cards, right? We're going to put money back in the hobby. The question is, are they going to be putting money back in the hobby?
That is a big question.
Yeah.
There are several different conversations when it comes to Fanatics. Overall, I know people say they hate monopolies and they feel like Fanatics is a monopoly. What are your thoughts on Fanatics when it comes to the next 3 to 5 years of?
I mean, they are doing some good things to streamline a lot of stuff that makes it easier. I mean, a good idea is like, I got someone at the door. My dogs are barking.
Oh, that's fine.
But
dogs barking is fine.
But yeah, so there's a lot of good things, like maybe where you can sell things easier, do everything, streamline the gray cards easier. That will help the people that didn't know how to do it. But, all I know is if you collected from the 80s and 90s, you knew competition is what makes cards better. When we had Fleer, Upper Deck, Donruss, whatever, Skybox, all those different products, they were competing with each other to make the better insert so you're going to buy their product. So why do you think Fleer became Flair and Skybox, because they wanted to make a high-end product because Upper Deck was the ones innovating with, Upper Deck and then, SPX, all the new stuff that they were working on. Mm-hmm. So there was competition. Now, if it's only Fanatics, they might not need to think about innovating and making new products and making better inserts, better cards for the collector. So that's the main issue. Yeah, monopolies never really do well because if they control everything, they don't need to get better. And it's been like that with Panini, to be honest, right? Panini's had the monopoly, and have we seen anything different or new?
Not at all.
So, but in the 90s, there was so many new stuff coming out. Mm-hmm. So what they're doing now is just replicating the old stuff. That's all I'm pretty much seeing. Similar to the old stuff. They're just not calling it the same name.
True.
So
it'd be interesting to see if a Topps Chrome product comes out that is licensed at some point.
Well, it should, right? I think they get the license in 2 years, or not next year, but the following year.
It'd be interesting to see what that looks like, what they do with it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see cards that have a patch from a game. Like all this stuff not associated with any player, whatever. That stuff is gone. And the patches are real and they're from a game, and then the card tells you what game they're from.
That's exactly what I've been saying that for a while.
Lovely, man.
Especially if it's a very iconic game. Yes. Like imagine if I can buy Luka's 60-point triple-double against the Knicks, and that jersey is in a patch.
Or when he wins the finals this year, whatever game it is, if it's game 6, you get a piece of that game 6 jersey. Or even something that he wore that day leading up to the game.
Even just the regular jerseys, if you could just remember, because there are some collectors like, I was at this game, and now I get to own a piece of this card. Let's say it might not even be a meaningful game to most people, but it might be meaningful to that person.
True.
So if I went to a game this is the game I went to, so I want the logo man of that Luka card from that specific game. I mean, putting in the game, especially they could authenticate, especially with all the authentication being done, they know what game it is. All the card has to do is print what game it's from on each card and put it in there.
But you got to think that, like now with baseball cards, they're putting an MLB sticker on the patch, letting you know what game it's from.
Yeah,
they can do something similar in basketball.
Well, hopefully, but the problem is do they want to cut up a jersey of their first entire? Well, I guess they could just take the patch out like they do
Yeah,
in MLB.
True. So, a question for you: do you watch female sports? What do you think of WNBA right now?
So that is probably the worst topic for someone to ask me because I'm very opinionated about this. And
go ahead, I want to hear it. That's why I asked.
I hated when the WNBA always try to compare themselves, like, oh, we're not getting paid like NBA players, and complaining about it. I mean, if you were actually pulling in ratings, you would get paid like NBA players. I mean, do the Kardashians get paid more than some male TV personalities? Of course they do, because more people watch them. More people watch the NBA. That's why they get paid more. In terms of this new drama, which I think is kind of dumb, I actually think there's two ways you can think about it. Maybe this is all intentional. Because
I thought about this the other day. Go ahead.
Yeah. This drama between Angel Reese, because it's like wrestling. If you watch wrestling, you need a heel and you need a baby face.
That's right.
So the media's already anointed Caitlin Clark as the new face of the WNBA. So she needs a villain. And I mean, even if it's unintentional, she's playing that role to the T.
And even spoke on the other day that I'll play the villain role.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I don't know if she actually thinks what she's saying, because let's be honest, no one would know who Angel Reese was if she didn't do this to Caitlin Clark.
Yeah,
I say no one. A very small, let's say 5% of the people that know who she is now is because of her interactions with Caitlin Clark. It's not because
you're right.
I mean, if you watch Angel Reese play, that's the ugliest jump shot I've ever seen. She looks like Joakim Noah.
I like that. I like
a lefty Joakim Noah, right? That weird rotation.
When I look at her game, she's a natural rebounder that tries to score.
Now, here's the question. You know that from the NBA. That player don't sell.
That's right.
So
we can name several of them.
Yeah, are you paying? Okay, you're a Warriors fan. Are you paying to watch Draymond rebound and play defense? Or are you watching Steph Curry launch 40-footers?
Or who's really hot in the hobby about Looney? Who's talking about Looney? I love him as a player. I love.
Can you not? That hurts my feelings when you mention Looney, because he's the guy that killed the Mavs 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Kevon Looney.
I loved him as a player. I still love him as a player. But a lot of people are not going to hone in on that unless you really watch basketball.
I mean, granted, he went up against Dwight Powell. I don't even know how Luka took a team like Dwight Powell as starting center to the Western Conference Finals.
I'm even
think about how great that is.
I didn't know he was still on the team until the other player Lively got hurt.
So exactly, the point is Luka took Dwight Powell as a starting center, and you know who his backup was? It's not like his backup was good. It was Willie Cauley-Stein.
Yeah, I remember that. I met him in person in Vegas one time. I remember that guy.
So they were so bad at center that they spent $27 million on JaVale McGee, who was complete garbage too. And then now we got probably two of the best center tandems that you can get, because you got 48 minutes of Lively and Gafford, which is going to be tough.
And they're touching the ball and doing something with it.
Yeah, and they know how to finish. The problem with Willie Cauley-Stein could not catch an alley-oop. And Dwight Powell was just too small, and ever since he tore his Achilles, he couldn't jump, he's too small to begin with, and he's just an energy guy off the bench for 1 or 2 minutes.
It's funny that Willie Cauley-Stein couldn't catch alley-oop. He's the tallest individual. Now I can't say I've seen a lot of 7-footers, but he's the tallest guy I've ever seen in person.
Maybe he's got Kwame Brown syndrome.
It could be.
Kwame Brown couldn't catch either.
Could be something like that. Depth or something going on. Could be. Yeah, but going back to this Caitlin Clark situation, I've also thought, could it be made up to increase ratings, have an antagonist, have a hero, make people tune in? I guess we'll see over time. I actually think, and I've said this to a few friends, this whole hard fouling thing and beating up Clark is not going away anytime soon.
So I don't mind asking you this, because I asked you this, remember, point blank when we were
talking about this.
I will say it straight up, because people don't like to have this conversation about race, but I will. Do you think they're harder on her because she's white? I think they would get the same treatment because of jealousy. You know, there's jealousy even if she's black or white, but I think there's an extra layer.
I'm going to say this. I believe that no matter what color she was, the way she's been hyped up, people will have problems with her. I've been watching the WNBA since its inception year. There's never been a player talked about as much as her. and who has been given the keys as much as her. And if she was black, if she was plum Puerto Rican, whatever she would be, players would have a problem with her.
And then the thing about it is, you have to come to your senses eventually. And it's like, we were flying commercial, and now we're flying private because of this woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing as, okay, you probably remember this. Remember when all the PGA Tour was all pissed off that Tiger was getting all that attention as a 17-year-old that hasn't accomplished anything?
Yeah.
That he was getting. I mean, no one even knew who all the other players were, but they all knew Tiger Woods.
They hated him for it.
And they hated him for it, but they hated him. I think they only hated him shortly. Then when they started making $1 million a tournament instead of $100,000 a tournament, they'll be like, come on in, Tiger, we're okay with you. And eventually, do you think that the WNBA is going to figure out, you know what? We got to embrace her because she's bringing us money that we weren't going to get otherwise.
I think eventually it will. And I think the WNBA is also in that whole campaign of embracing her and having her as the head is going to showcase some other players as well. And probably WNBA to me doesn't do a good job. We talk about Magic Johnson. We talk about Larry Bird. WNBA doesn't talk about any of their great players from the past. You don't ever see them. They're not really at games or they're not showcased. I don't turn on my ESPN and some special 30-minute edition is about Cynthia Cooper. That doesn't happen. So most people who are tuning into the WNBA only know what's happening today. They don't know about any other players. They don't know. If you walk up to the average person, because I've asked some people, do you know the Houston Comets won 4 championships in a row? They don't know anything about that.
Well, I could tell you that. I actually remember it was a Cheryl Swoops team, right? Yeah. Cheryl Swoops with Cynthia Cooper.
Yeah. And Thompson down low. You know about this.
Well, I didn't really watch it, but it was, back then, remember, the only time we could actually get anything was inside the NBA, the inside stuff, or whatever it was, right? It was the inside stuff back then with Ahmad Rashad.
And I want to go back to your question that you asked me in person. You asked me if I had a dislike for Luka because he was Caucasian.
No, I said because he's a white Euro. That's what I said. Yeah.
Euro. And was that also bleeding into Caitlin Clark? So I just want people to know, when it comes to my content, I look at the greatness. I talk about this all the time. The greatness in players. I don't crown a player until that player is supposed to be crowned. So just like Luka, Luka showed me a lot in this playoff run. It's just about leading a team. I see more from him than I saw in 2022. He also has better players around him. And I always thought that if he has a very solid second person like a Kyrie Irving, where he could go. Now, originally I thought there's no way 2 point guards are going to win in the WNBA. But they go back and forth between point and shooting guard all the time throughout the game. And I think that's what messes people up. But I'm looking at greatness. So I don't really care what color a player is. What is their ability? And I'm definitely not a person who's going to say Anthony Edwards is Jordan when he hasn't even sniffed that. So that's really where I'm at on the top.
Actually, after talking to you, remember I told you that. I was like, you know what? After speaking to you, I definitely don't think that because you actually have vitriol towards Jason Tatum and Anthony Edwards. So the only thing that I thought was ridiculous was you saying, okay, I have no problem with you saying Shea is better than Luka. That's an opinion. His analytics are close to Luka. And it's whether you like blue or green. You know, some people like blue, some people like green. But Jalen Brunson's not better than Luka. Jalen Brunson will tell you he's not better than Luka.
I don't know. I'm looking at the project. He may not be better than him right now, but think about Luka in 2020.
He's also 3 years older.
Doesn't matter. Think about Luka in 2022 and before. Jalen Brunson is a very smart guard. He's not even Luka. He's a very small guard to put a team on his back and try to take them somewhere. We haven't seen that since.
But where did he take them? Take them to the second round of the East?
Oh yeah, without Brunson, what do you think?
I know, I know, but I'm just saying if he was on the West, he wouldn't even sniff the Warriors.
He may not. If LeBron was in the West, he wouldn't have went to 9 finals.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely agree with you on that. But
Brunson
I'm just saying if the Knicks move to the West, I don't even think they make the playing game because you think they're better than the Warriors or the Kings?
I wouldn't say they're better than either one of those.
They got all those easy wins from scheduling and health too.
Kevin, what I'm saying is, though, he's an extremely small guard.
Well, that's kind of the reason why he can never be Luka, because Luka's 6'7" version of him, and he learned a lot of his tricks from Luka. The moves that he has is very similar to Luka
I don't
playing with
doubt
Luka.
that. I don't doubt that. Them
So
playing together.
Luka should get a little credit for developing Jalen Brunson a little bit,
I can agree with that.
because a lot of his moves are not American players type moves. They're Euro moves.
They're not, and they create distance moves. Like when he does that thing where he spins around and a fadeaway jumper, you're not blocking that.
And do you see Luka do that move all the time?
All the time.
So I mean, you can learn. You learn from your teammates. I mean, maybe Luka learned how to shoot free throws better lately this season because of Kyrie.
He is shooting them better. Let me ask you this question though: what would you rate if we're just looking at point guards? Where would you rank Brunson, current player?
Depends. You said this before. It depends on your definition of point guard. So am I counting everyone?
Everyone.
Okay, so we'll just count all the combo guards that are sort of point guards.
All the Shays.
Okay, Luka's 1.
Okay.
Shay's 2.
Okay. I'm respecting this now. I'm respecting it.
I would still put Curry over him if you count Curry as a point guard.
I count him as a point.
Okay, the Curry's over him.
Okay.
I would put Brunson 4th.
Okay, I respect that.
Because he's actually proven it this year that he could actually advance a team. But I've had this argument with some people, like, is the second round of the East better than making the playoffs in the West? I don't think so. They're probably at most equal.
One could say that, but with the team he has.
But he's also got a great coach that knows how to get every single bit out of the player.
That coach will also run you into the ground.
Yeah, but he runs you in the ground enough to get you to the second round.
That's true.
I mean, we're Bulls fans. We know this.
We are, but Thibodeau, Thibodeau is not Phil Jackson.
No, but I'm saying we've seen him run Derrick Rose to the ground and Jimmy Butler to the ground. But what does he do? He takes them to the second round, to the third round every year. The only year that they didn't make it was when Derrick Rose tore his knee.
That's why I tell people I don't think Thibodeau can ever really win a title. I think he's a better assistant coach.
He hasn't really had a great team if you think about it. That Derrick Rose team got every little bit of that they could have gotten out of it. Joakim Noah, Luol Deng, Derrick Rose, Jimmy Butler. Well, Jimmy Butler wasn't the Jimmy Butler he is today.
Yeah, he was coming off the bench.
Yeah. So Jimmy Butler wasn't. It was Keith Bogans that started, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Keith Bogans, and then Taj Gibson came off the bench. It was Luol Deng.
The memory.
And
I
mean, yeah. So Brunson's 4th for me. I mean, I'm not that low on him. I'm just saying you're comparing Luka.
Well, I think my biggest take on Brunson, and when I said he was number 1 in the league, is that no one considers Shea or Steph Curry a point guard.
Yeah, but then you consider Luka a point guard.
I do. I've talked to some people who do not.
It's a minority opinion in terms of if you think Brunson is better than Luka. It's kind of way out there. I mean, it's the same. But let's put it this way: it's no worse than people that say Tatum's better than Luka, because that's ridiculous.
I've heard that, and I don't even know what they're talking about. I don't know how you're watching basketball and you think that, but that's just me.
I mean, I'm just hoping the Mavs, because I hate the Celtics more than any other team, but I hope the Mavs beat them and show the fraud that Tatum, I think, is. I mean,
I think this is what's about to happen, Kelvin. I think they're going to be exposed. You got to remember, 2 years ago, to 2022, 3 years ago now, almost 3 seasons, they went to the finals, lost to the Warriors. Last year, they went to the 7th game of the Eastern Conference Finals. At the beginning of the game, Tatum sprains his ankle. They lose the game. Miami goes on, gets beat. And this year, think about if they go 3 years in a row on this kind of run and don't walk away with a ring.
Well, they shouldn't even made 7 games, to be honest. Philly just choked. They had a 14-point lead in the 4th quarter of Game 6 to close out. Then Embiid, foul merchant that he is, couldn't do anything down the stretch of that game. So they gave them life. I mean,
let me ask you this: do you see Embiid or Giannis ever going to other teams?
Of course, but if you're talking about the near future, I don't think Philly has a trade that they would do for Embiid, and Giannis just re-signed. So Milwaukee isn't getting any other superstar. So I don't see them leaving in the near future, but towards their end of their career or after this contract, yeah, of course.
But you know, we live in a time where there are players who demand trades.
Yeah. Giannis doesn't have that personality. I could see them moving Embiid before Giannis because I just don't think they're going to win with Embiid. Embiid's style of game, where he's trying to draw 15 free throws a game, doesn't work in the playoffs. It's not that he disappears in the playoffs. It's just they don't call the games the same way. Him, flopping when a point guard touches him doesn't fly in the NBA playoffs.
So Cornelius Gross has questions here. Brunson doesn't have a Kyrie. That's a statement. And then he says, so is Luka better than Steph Curry?
Now, if you're telling me this year is Luka better than Steph Curry, of course, without a doubt. Is career-wise, he's not even close because he doesn't have the rings. Steph has 4 rings. And Curry has never put up the numbers that Luka has in any single year, obviously, because we would know about. I mean, I think Curry's best years. Yeah, he hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
He's not as good of a playmaker as Luka. He's definitely a better shooter, the best shooter of all time. But he's not close to the playmaker that Luka is, the rebounder that Luka is. And I don't want to hear about defense because
go ahead.
Luka is not as bad of a defender as all these people say he is. I think he's proven it when people are actually watching the games in this playoffs.
He is actually stepping up on the defensive end. I saw him make several plays.
There's actually a stat out there that showed that Luka is holding people he's guarding to like 43% field goals when he's guarding them one-on-one isolated. But Jason Tatum is giving up 62%. But Tatum's this great defender, but Luka's this weak defender. But Tatum's giving Obi Toppin 62% field goals, whereas Luka's been guarding Edwards and Shea. He might not be starting off with them, but you watched OKC, they were hunting him.
Mm-hmm.
So when they switch on the pick and roll, Luka's still doing a decent job on Shea.
He is.
And actually, I love the strategy of what Dallas did. They said, Shea, go ahead and get your 30. We don't care. You get your 30.
That's what Golden State told Luka in 2022.
Yeah.
You go ahead and get because he scored points that series. You go get it, but the rest of your boys aren't doing anything.
Well, those rest of the boys weren't going to make anything anyways.
True.
I mean, I was at game 3. Reggie Bullock went 0 for 10. And they were
remember.
all wide open threes. They weren't even like, oh, he took some difficult shots. He took like 7 3-pointers that were no one was within a few feet of him. So they were wide open jumpers. So that's why I like these pickups. I mean, they might not shoot great every game, but PJ Washington, he's not afraid to take them. And even Derrick Jones Jr. By the way, you know who Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington was killing it on the offensive end? Who was guarding them? Your boy.
Who's my boy?
SGA. SGA tried to take the easiest guy, and he put him on PJ. You remember the first few games, they put him on PJ. PJ started posting him up and scoring on him. And then they were like, damn, PJ's scoring 29, 27, 20 points every game. We're going to put him on Derrick Jones Jr. Derrick Jones Jr. started going off. So when I hear, SGA is such a better defender than Luka, it's just all narrative because they don't have a lot of the stuff is this is what I think. Your eyes are biased and your ears are biased, but stats aren't really, if you look at statistics, they're not really that biased unless you enter them in a certain way to prove your bias.
I think you get to top tier players. When you get to a Luka, you get to a Shea, you get to a Steph, there are certain players in the league. I agree totally with what you just said. Then there are other levels of players that the stats represent exactly who they are.
I mean, when it comes to what I'm trying to say is like a lot of times you hear based on the color commentator telling you this guy can't play defense. Like they've been saying that with Curry all this time. But the superstars don't take the tough assignments because they're not going to be able to do what they do on offense.
They can't.
Jordan, okay. As a Bulls fan, do they not realize that Pippen and Ron Harper guarded the tougher assignments?
I hope anybody watching basketball would know that.
So they all say Jordan's okay. And then here's another one, Kobe. Kobe never guarded anyone. He was taking the weakest guy because they had Ron Artest and they had Trevor Ariza.
And then they had either on those later teams, you still had Hart playing defense.
Yeah, Harper was on it on the early one. So yeah, exactly. They always had someone else taking it. So when they, I'm laughing at a comment right here.
Which one you got? Cornelius?
No. Just Chris. Chris made a comment to me about our SGA can't guard PJ Washington.
Okay.
Line that I've been saying. I've been telling our.
Says I believe Holiday is going to give Luka problems. I don't see that. I think Kyrie is going to give Holiday problems.
So Holiday didn't even give Aaron Nemhart problems.
No.
Or TJ McConnell problems.
No.
So if they couldn't guard those two guys,
I don't think he's doing what Boston thought he was going to do. I don't think Holiday is getting that done. I thought he was going to be a defensive stopper. He's not that.
However, Holiday does come up with big plays over here, like big rebounds, big the steal that he got, So he does come up with big plays, timely defensive plays, which is clutch defensive plays.
But you're not going to go put him on somebody and lock that dude down.
I mean, I don't think anyone's going to lock anyone up. That's what's so stupid about this comment about Luka and Kyrie are going to be hunted and they can't play defense. But it's not like any of the Boston guys can guard Luka and Kyrie either. It's just Luka and Kyrie will get whatever shot that they want. The question is, will they make it? That step back that Luka has, it's not no one's going to stop it. It's will he make that shot? And when he was making it against, so what Luka does, if you watch enough Mavericks games, is he likes to start out hot. Like he will try to score 15, 20 points in the first quarter because once he does that, they start trapping him, and then he finds everyone else right after. It's like two levels. Yeah, exactly. So when he starts scoring, it opens up his teammates scoring. So the problem he had in the beginning of the series was when his knee wasn't right, was he couldn't make the step back three. So they didn't have to respect him on his shot. So they were able to take some of that element out of his game, and it was harder for the other guys to get open looks. And then Kyrie, had to go from there. But essentially, Kyrie can get that whatever shot he wants. Luka can get whatever shot he wants. Will he make it? That's the question. And you're right. The best defense about it is let them get their 40.
Because they're going to get it.
But that was the way the Warriors could solve Luka when it was only Luka. I mean, Jalen Brunson isn't the same Jalen Brunson he was 2 years ago to now. But if Luka's getting his 40 and Kyrie's getting his 30, then what are you going to do?
That's a problem.
So, I mean, you could say the same thing about the Celtics, but do you have confidence that Tatum and Brown could get 30 every night?
No, I'm not.
I mean, Tatum could get 30, but it might take him 28 shots.
That's right.
So,
I still want to see Brown's left. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think of right now, not in the future, of Anthony Edwards?
I actually like Anthony Edwards. I mean, I like his persona. He's got that. He likes to talk smack, which is pretty good, for him. But let's not pretend he's Jordan. So let's not even pretend he's Luka.
Let's not pretend he's Jordan, Luka, Kobe, or Vince Carter. I say the greatest.
You can say Vince Carter. I think Vince Carter is an okay comparison. That was my comp for him.
Don't know about that. But what I do think is a great comparison is he should be playing to be Dwayne Wade. Well, that's who he is.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade. The only thing is Dwayne Wade, he did win 1 year, but that's because the rest gave him 25 free throws a game. I don't think that's going to happen with Anthony Edwards.
Well, I'm just talking about style of play.
Yeah.
The way he navigates his way around the court, his jump shot, what he does, is more Dwayne Wade than anybody. Nobody makes
Yeah, they're the same size, too. They're both around 6'4".
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, he could be Dwayne Wade, but he needs to find a LeBron James to play with him to win.
There you go.
But,
I think a lot of these players come in, you're scoring, you're hot. You realize after a while, I got to have somebody consistent over here. I got to have somebody that's the real deal if we want to take this next step. And I think Luke is probably seeing that this year with Kyrie. You got to have a guy like that.
So remember the question I asked you? I was like, if Luka wins it all this year, are you going to finally admit that he's better than Brunson or SGA?
Well, by nature, he would be. Yeah, he would.
So you're going to admit it now, right? Before you told me no.
Kelvin, if he wins the ring, I will be an idiot not to.
All right. I want to see you post. Once Luka wins. Or say, FD, rolling with FD says Luka is the best point guard in the NBA. Our best player.
I would do that.
All right, that's all I wanted to hear. At least you're willing to admit your mistakes.
I'll stand behind that. But just like when Dwayne Wade won first before LeBron, just know more is coming now. There's going to be, after Luka wins one.
Oh, I actually do fear that team because they have all those draft picks.
Yeah.
Where they screwed up is, and a lot of people don't know, I got to thank the Thunder. The Mavericks got all their players thanks to the Thunder.
Well,
so did you? Yeah, so the Mavericks got the 10th pick of the draft because they tanked last year. They traded the 10th pick and Bertans to the Oklahoma City Thunder to get Derek Lively. So what they did was they got two spots lower in the draft, and they got rid of a contract of Bertans. So he was making like $18 million a year because Oklahoma City could absorb it, and they wanted to go up and get Cason Wallace. So they got Derek Lively, and then they used that extra contract that they got to pick up the 24th pick or whatever it was from Sacramento to get Omax, who doesn't really play. But they also got Rashad Holmes back in that Omax trade because they could absorb that contract into Davis Bertans' contract. So they used Rashad Holmes to get Daniel Gafford. And Oklahoma City helped them get that pick because they were willing to do a pick swap in 2018. Oklahoma City has way too many picks. So they said, we'll do a pick swap for you 2028.
Yeah.
So whoever got the worst pick, the best pick, we'll take that pick between us two. And that was what they used to get a first round pick to send to Washington to get Gafford. So they got Gafford because of that, and they got Lively. So because of OKC, we got Lively and Gafford, and guess who killed OKC? Gaffley and Lively.
Yeah, you get them together with Washington Jr., that's a problem. That those guys and Lively are so active. It's a problem.
And I'm glad they got Washington Jr. because Grant Williams can't. I don't even think he wants to guard his former teammates. We traded Grant Williams to get PJ Washington. He was really, really soft. I mean, he might be wearing Tatum shoes during the finals.
Yeah.
So
Big John says, but Kobe and Jordan could play great lockdown defense. This going back to Anthony Edwards. I think we all know he's not on that level. I hope he continues to develop. You see guys come to the playoffs, talk all this trash, get put out. And some players, you see their career kind of stifle for a little bit. I hope he puts in the work. There are things that his game needs to put in work on. And the number one thing is his endurance. Dude has almost zero endurance.
I mean, I do agree with his take that Jordan could play lockdown defense when he wanted to. Kobe, not as much. I think Kobe's one of the most he's a good defender, but he's not like all-world defender that people put him out to be. It's by reputation more than by skill. Because how could he be first team 9 years in a row and Bruce Bowen or Raja Bell or whoever else, or even his own teammates that guarded the tougher assignments didn't get all defense?
True.
I mean, the same can be said about Jordan in terms of all defense. But yeah, I do admit LeBron, the Kobe, the Jordan, they could lock down if they really needed to for one or two possessions. But are we going to judge them all on one or two possessions?
Some of my favorite, one of my favorite replays of Kobe's career, I know it's only one possession, is when he locks down Dwayne Wade in the game and makes him turn over the ball, makes him travel.
Was that a regular season game?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, it must have been something. Knowing Kobe, he must have been trying to prove a point.
Well, Luka has two memorable defensive plays against Minnesota, if you don't remember it, where he stopped that alley-oop from Gobert, got the steal, and found PJ Washington for three, all within the two possessions, where when they were down 5, it became, different game. And then he hit the game winner, obviously, that game too.
You know what I'm hoping for in the finals? There's no injuries. We get to see players play each other, and we get to see the winner take the crown. I think Boston all the way to the finals, they're not really playing the team that's the name is on the jersey.
I mean, I worry about that the most with Boston. Like, do they just have some incredible luck where everyone's going to get hurt and it's going to continue all the way?
Yeah.
I hope not. I've got to knock on some wood here, because I hope that doesn't happen.
I hope not either.
Because if they get lucked into another superstar missing games or another vital player missing games, it would suck. And then we would have to live with all these Boston fans talking crap all summer.
They're going to talk it too. This brings up what Cornelius is saying here. I wonder if Porzingis likes Luka. You remember Porzingis, for everybody that doesn't know, was on Dallas, got traded up out of Dallas. Everybody's talking about Kyrie formerly being in Boston. I wonder how this is going to play out. I want Porzingis to be healthy. Please don't come out here hobbling around, be able to play.
I mean, I've seen Porzingis firsthand in the playoffs before. We haven't seen much of him. I think he got hurt in the second game of the of the first round.
Yeah.
But he just stood in the corner and he couldn't make any shots for Dallas.
He looked out of place in the offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got there was a quote somewhere that said that Rick Carlisle just told him to stand in the corner and make threes, and then he didn't really like that role. But he always got hurt in that was the year he was actually healthy. The other years he always got hurt. So it's a very common thing. He always got hurt towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
So the reason why I think there's stuff about him not liking Luka was because I think at that time he thought he was the main man on the team, and Luka was his Robin, and he was the Batman. We all know that's not the case, but now he knows. You know what's funny? He's no longer a Batman or a Robin. He's more like he's an Alfred.
Yeah.
If that on the Celtics, he's just a role player, which is best suited for him because there's no pressure on him. I actually want there to be pressure on Porzingis because I think he shrinks from the pressure.
Well, I think Jason Kidd would bring it to him.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Kidd would bring it to him.
If I watched a lot of games when the Knicks traded Porzingis to Mavs, and the Knicks fans would boo him every time he touched the ball, and he would suck. And the Knicks team back then were a crappy team, and Dallas would lose to the Knicks because Porzingis couldn't play. So hopefully Dallas does that to Porzingis in the finals because I think it gets in his head because he's kind of soft to me, in my opinion.
Hey, who do you think is going to Golden State this offseason? Because somebody's coming.
Do you guys have cap room?
I think a little bit, very small amount. But there are some players making money that's going to be moved.
Well, it looks like Clay's going to leave if that's the case because that's the only way they can absorb some money, right? So
Well,
if they sign to trade Clay.
What about Wiggins?
I mean, you keep bringing up players that I'm still scarred from. Wiggins killed us, just like Looney.
Do you remember that dunk on Luka and Luka act like he got hit in the face?
He did get hit in the face, but that was part of the dunk, so it wasn't a foul. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing you got to love about Luka. Do you remember what Luka said after the game?
What did he say?
Instead of saying stuff, he was like, "Yeah, that guy's got hops. He got me, man."
Oh,
He did. Yeah. So, and then that's the thing I like about Luka. I mean, he takes the blame and he won't cry about stuff after the game. He cries during the game.
You know what I like about him? Tell you what I like about him.
He takes responsibility.
No, he talks during the game. You can hear him talking smack to some players. You can hear him talking smack to a fan that initiates something with him. But when he comes to the podium, he's professional.
Yeah. And actually, if you think about it,
Anthony Edwards has it twisted. Well, he's coming to the podium like we're talking in the locker room. It doesn't work like that.
Well, all the stars are like that. Jordan talked the most shit.
Yes.
But
he came to the podium.
Yeah. He's got his suit on, right? Back then, you had to wear a suit, and he would be very professional and say, even when the Pistons were playing dirty games with him, he would not say that. He would just say, I got to get better. I got to get stronger. And, I'll be ready next year.
Yep.
I mean, they play clips of it. It's like Jordan's very professional about it. Didn't complain, didn't cry. I mean, I think the crying with Luka and complaining that people don't like, he stopped complaining for a while, and I noticed his free throw attempts went down 2 per game, and then when he started complaining, it went back up. So the complaining probably actually works. That's the problem. That's the problem with the NBA. The guys that complain the most get the most calls. I mean, we all say LeBron complains the most, right? LeBron might not shoot the most free throws, but the Lakers shoot way more free throws than all. Yeah. And as a Warrior fan, you remember that series where they would outshoot them by 20 free throws, and who's complaining? Steph Curry don't complain.
He does,
and he probably gets a pretty poor whistle.
Yeah.
And you know who else doesn't complain? Kyrie never complains. And the guy shoots like 1 or 2 free throws a game now.
He doesn't.
So maybe complaining works, and that's why he does it, and it's part of his game.
Let's talk about what card shows you go to and how you pick which ones you're going to.
Well, typically, I would go to the local shows. I'm in Orange County, so I try to go to the ones, I saw you in Brea. I go to the, some of the premier shows and Burbank shows, and they have it. I'll try to get to the Dallas show just because especially during basketball season, so it gives me an excuse to watch a game.
Yeah.
And obviously the national, and I'll try to hit some random shows every now and then just to see the same dealer. The problem with the local shows, you and I both know this. We see the same dealers, the same cards every show.
Yeah.
So it's like rare to see something that you haven't seen. So when you travel outside your area, then you'll be like, oh, there's cards that I've never seen before. And, dealers that you've never seen before that you can make deals with. So I try to travel. I actually travel quite a bit for shows, but probably like once every month or two. And mainly Dallas during the basketball season. And I would go, where else did I go? I went to Sacramento one time just to check it out. It wasn't bad.
I heard that show's pretty good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. So, I mean, I bought a few cards there. But it's getting harder to buy cards now. Before, if you recall, you could buy a lot of raw cards and grade them and start making money with it or whatever it is. Or you could even buy 9.5s and cross them over to 10s. Now it's really hard because everyone's starting to know what to do for grading. So it's hard to find cards you can buy that you can actually profit with.
It is. Very rare do I see a raw card that I think, man, that might be a...
Actually, when I see a raw card now, I was like, what's wrong with it? Why are you selling it raw?
I asked that same question. Why do you grade this? What's going on?
And it's actually very rare that you see one that could gem.
I
Like
agree.
when it's
Are
there's
you
a
going
reason
to
why.
the national this year?
Cleveland, I say I am, but something comes up, I might not be because I try not to miss the Chicago shows, but Cleveland, I'm not 100%.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm at. I'm not going to Cleveland, but I'm planning to be in Chicago in 2025.
Because I hear everything, it's not even close. Like the hotels aren't close to the convention.
No.
And it's going to be,
You got to have a car. You got to be able to move around.
And I go to shows for national for a different reason. I love. Okay, you said you used to get autographs, so I go there to get autographs. Some of my collection would be like I got Joe Montana on his rookie card. I would collect rookie cards of that didn't have autos.
Yep.
Back then, like a Ryan Sandberg. I got Ryan Sandberg's auto at the national. I got Jerry Rice's, and Emmett Smith, Barry Sanders, all those cards that didn't have autographed rookie cards. I would get their rookie card signed, and then I would regrade them. I would actually crack PSA 10s out, grade them, and then send them back to PSA to try to get 10 10s. It works sometimes. Sometimes I end up with a 9.
Great strategy to me.
Yeah, because it's more for my PC. But I would try to get 2. Let's say I crack 2 Barry Sanders PSA 10s and get them autographed and they were 10 10s. I would sell one to cover my costs and keep my other one for my PC. So back then they were going for double what regular PSA 10 would be worth, and then the autograph cost $200. But you also get to experience meeting the player, shaking his hand, taking a photo with him.
To me, the stories you get, the memories you get from that is crazy. Coin Crazy says, I'm glad I got my raw Satchel Paige rookies already. All the Negro League player baseball gonna skyrocket out soon. That'd be interesting to see. Y'all think Josh Gibson starting lineups are gonna have a demand now? I don't know.
So what do you think of them incorporating all the stats?
I just wonder why now. A few people hit me up, and I sent that back. Why now?
Yeah, I mean, have they incorporated? See, I can understand the ABA and the NBA incorporating their stats because some of these teams are currently playing in the NBA, so it kind of works out. But yeah, if they wanted to do it, they should have done it a long time ago. And none of us know. I mean, I haven't. There are people that study the Negro Leagues and know, like, are the park dimensions the same? Or I mean, what if Josh Gibson was hitting home runs in 250 foot parks instead of 350? So there's going to be an advantage to that.
Oh yeah, true. But I just always get into some of these guys. I've met some Negro League players in life, and these guys won't ever see. Josh Gibson will never see his stats being recognized, people thinking of him a certain way. Many have. There's been some folklore about, he basically had issues with depression and other things because Jackie Robinson was chosen as a player. We all know that Jackie Robinson was not the best player in the Negro Leagues at the time. He was the most complete person where you could put a microphone in front of his face. You could talk to him about things. He could express himself. He could also go out and hit. But Josh Gibson was a better player than him. I would have wished that this man could have seen these flowers when he was here and could appreciate them for what he did for baseball instead of this.
I will say what it did for me is it made me look up Josh Gibson on Wikipedia and study. And I was like, wow, he died at like 41 years old or something.
Yeah.
He died really, really young. So
died really
I mean-
young of a broken heart, really, because he was the man. But no one is going to know he's the man because his stats are not recognized. And, you got another guy that people are talking about, number 42 now, not him. And so that's what I wish. When I first heard about it, I was like, man, there's over 100 and something people that are well known, and it's more than that play the Negro Leagues, that I wish all these guys could have seen the fruits of that labor. Because I was in St. Louis, and I met Buck O'Neil 2 times. I met Buck O'Neil once in Kansas City, legendary Negro League player, scout that brought Lou Brock and Fergie Jenkinson and Ernie Banks to the pros, brought him to the MLB. And when he was up for Hall of Fame, he got shunned when he was alive. A few years later, Buck O'Neil was deceased, and he was getting into the Hall of Fame. This brought me back to that thought. I wish these guys could see this stuff when it's actually going on, and when they can touch and feel it and hear the applause, and not their family members only being the people that are kind of involved.
Did they make Negro League cards?
Not that I'm aware of. No,
because I don't remember. There
have been some cards made in years since, but not while the Negro Leagues are going.
Yeah, because Satchel Paige, we all know. I mean, you could both picture that card. I think it's a 48 Bowman.
He actually played in the MLB.
Yeah, he played later on. Yeah, but I'm just saying, Josh Gibson. I never even remember seeing whatever kind of old vintage card of him. I don't think I've ever seen it before. I'm sure there is one.
Yeah, I have not seen a Josh Gibson card. Like a dated older card, I haven't seen that.
But to answer the guy's question, yes, I think it would help the value because it's in the it's in the news right now. It's the topic that people are looking at. It could be anything, that's recent. That's going to be. I mean, do you remember people were buying cards just because a guy had a documentary out and it wasn't even a good documentary?
Yeah, especially after the Jordan documentary blew up and everybody said,
"Yeah, the next documentary, I'm going to buy this guy's card." But it worked. Because I watched the Reggie White 30 for 30 and I bought a Reggie White rookie card because of it. So it does work. It worked on me.
Reggie White.
I don't know if you've ever done it.
No, I haven't. I haven't done that. But Reggie White was something special. I can see why it's working.
No, but I'm just saying, have you ever watched a documentary? Like, damn, I want that guy's card.
I've never done that.
Okay. So it does work on some people.
I know Larry Allen just passed for the Cowboys. What's your thoughts on Larry Allen? You remember him playing?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with offensive linemen is you heard of him, but you never noticed him. And that's actually good for an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
If you never notice him, that means he's doing his job.
Yeah.
But
see,
I wonder.
I was a kid going through college when the Cowboys were rolling, really. I mean, just destroying people. So Nate Newton and Larry Allen, I love those guys. I can't. If you want to watch how to play the offensive line, there's a lot of people that was on that line. Look at the whole line, but look at Nate Newton and Larry Allen. And
I don't know which one it was. Was it Nate or was it Larry that they showed highlights of him doing a block in the sidelines and he was fast, just running through, and it was Larry Allen, right? Like I think he was going down the sidelines on a block, and I think Emmitt Smith was making a cut or whoever it was, and then just boom, he came out of nowhere like a 350-pound guy.
He was faster than most linebackers in the league, carrying that 340 or whatever he weighed.
Yeah, that's the thing about these NFL players. I wonder if it was all that weight that he carried through all these years. Yeah. Because I'm assuming it's probably heart issues because he died suddenly. It wasn't like, something expected.
Yeah, on vacation, I think in Mexico with his family.
Yeah, sad.
It's bad.
Especially all these football players dying way too young.
It's almost like football and wrestlers. They don't live long.
Well, wrestling, I think it's that lifestyle on the road.
Yeah.
The drugs, the partying, the steroids.
Yeah. Everything and more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you watched a lot of these documentaries about these wrestlers. That's the life they live. They party from one city to the other city, and but I'm sure NFL players do that too. NBA players too.
And Coyne said, did you all know Jackie Robinson was training at Fort Hood? He was stationed there with OG Black Panthers, a.k.a. the Tank Destroyer Battalion during World War II. He was also there when Joe Louis came through on his campaign. Just a cool bit of trivia. A lot went down. A lot went down.
I mean, it's good when these guys are in the news because we look up stuff like that as trivia. And
Yep.
it's like, wow, this is interesting.
There-
But it's sad that it takes an event like that to have someone notice you after all
But
these years.
the good is that you talked about how you look stuff up. Coin Crazy is talking about stuff. Is that people? I think over time, especially with this happening, the positive side of it. Hey, guys didn't get a chance to see it themselves, but they are a part of history and being talked about, being researched, being thought about, because they did something that most people at that time wouldn't even do. You got to think about if you said in the 30s, I want to go play baseball full time. Some people probably thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
Like that's not a tangible job. That's not a welder. That's not doing something at the time that other people might have thought had been a very well respected job. So
Actually, what you just said was what they did during the off season. The welders and the mechanics, they had played baseball during the summer and had a regular job during, their off.
Wife and kids though, and you're taking time off from a very tangible situation to traveling, being away from them. It's just unorthodox. I try to put myself in the shoes of sometimes of what's happening at that time. That's unorthodox thinking, and I appreciate those guys for having unorthodox thoughts because it sparks something. It gets people to dream outside the box and think about what they could do. You got to think Jackie Robinson was a college graduate, served in the military.
He's from Pasadena, isn't he?
Yes, went to UCLA. Was married and off playing baseball in different places. Kansas City Monarchs, playing with Satchel Paige, away from Rachel. That's just like what? Why would a college graduate be doing that? It's a passion, it's something they wanted to do. That's why I applaud people even today that want to do stuff that's unconventional.
Well, today, so these athletes today are complaining about playing every day. Playing 82 games is too much work for them, and they fly private jets and everything. So, I mean, now every little injury is like, oh, I can't play. Oh, back to back, I can't play.
Hey, I got a question.
Soft.
I know you have a great collection. What's the most memorable card in your collection, and also what has been the biggest value card in your collection?
The biggest value card in my collection right now, I've actually downsized a little bit, but I've owned Luka NT PSA 10 before.
Okay.
I've had Jordan PSA 10 rookie.
Okay.
So those are probably the two best. My favorite card now is I'm still trying to get. I haven't gotten to Prism Gold yet, but I got the gold courtside and the gold concourse of Luka.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my two favorite cards. Might not be the most
Great
valuable cards, but those are my favorite cards.
Yeah.
And
but your goal is to get a gold?
Well, there's only probably 2 or 3 more that can ever be bought because there's some people that are just diamond hands that won't get rid of it.
True.
So, I mean,
if I have one, I might be one of those people just sitting on it.
What's your favorite card?
In my collection?
See, my favorite card might not be the most valuable card.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Some of them have more meaning than others,
Yeah, because most collectors, probably their most memorable or favorite card is not the one that's worth the most. It has a story or how they attained it or they remember a time, stuff like that. With me, it might be a Steph Curry rookie card. Something I found on eBay years ago from a seller in Puerto Rico.
Oh, so, speaking of Steph Curry, I got 2 cards right now. You want to see them?
Yeah, I know they're badass.
It's not mine. It's not mine.
What you got?
If Phil's watching, one of them is his, and the other one is Mike Hughes.
Okay.
It's the holy grail of Curry cards. All right. Only because I'm holding them, and I know you're a Curry fan, so
yes, I
just wanted to show you.
Very nice, sir. Very nice. And that's a 10?
PSA 10, I think it's a pop 2, And this is a 9.5 with True Gem Plus.
Wow.
True Gem Plus? Yeah, True Gem Plus.
Those are the real deal Evander Holyfield. Beautiful.
My friend just gave this to me just to get a reholder because he wanted a new slab.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, these are. Obviously, it's easier to get the Curry than the Luka because there's 50 copies versus 10.
Yeah.
So
they're great cards, man.
Yeah, but the PSA 10 is impossible.
Yeah.
Now the
PSA 10.
What's the what?
What's the pop on the PSA 10?
I think it's a pop 2.
That's what I thought because you don't.
And no one even knows where the other one is.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
It's hidden in someone's collection.
Heck of a card. I'm glad I asked that question.
Yeah, I mean,
this is one question I want to ask you too because I respect your opinion. We talked about a few, but what athletes? So you talk about NBA, NFL, whoever you want to talk about. Do you see taking the reins on greatness? You know, we got some guys we could all name who are probably going to be retiring in the next 5 years. Who's next up?
Are you talking about NBA or are you talking about other sports?
NBA or NFL. Real
consistent,
leading their league and will be known as a generational talent.
Well, you know what I think for basketball, it's going to be Luka and it's going to be Victor.
Okay. I respect
the question with Victor is, will he stay healthy enough? Because anyone his frame has never stayed healthy.
No.
I mean, I use the comp of Victor as Ralph Sampson.
I agree.
He was 7'4", block shots, could dribble the ball and shoot. You know, the old school, but he was healthy for like 4 years
and I've
in
seen
the NBA.
In the last 6 years in Calabasas, California, and I just don't. I look at his body type in person. You can see it on TV. You know how slim that guy is. You look at his body type in person, you're like, man, that guy's thin.
Which guy? Victor? Oh, Ralph. So he lives in Calabasas?
Saw him in Calabasas about 5 or 6 years ago in person. He's a very man.
And Victor is probably the same built as him.
Yes. And we know what happened with
so it's Chet.
Kobe. I saw him in person too in LA, down by LAX. What's the kid that was had the short career, played center with the Lakers on that second run? I can't remember.
Andrew Bynum?
Bynum. I saw Bynum in person. Extremely thin guy.
He looks thick on TV. He looks like he had, some big, broad shoulders. Whereas, Victor and Chet are just like rail thin.
What do you think of Chet Holmgren?
He needs to put some weight on.
Needs to put some weight on. He has to learn how to bang in that post, understand how to grab a rebound, get physical with people.
I mean, I do recall he only got 6 rebounds in the last 2 games against the Mavericks, while Lively and Gaffer were combining for like 25 to 30 rebounds a game.
Lively was pulling his card every night. Like he couldn't get around Lively, couldn't do anything with him.
But I'm glad they didn't figure it out was he needed to rim roll more instead of stay on the 3-point line. He stayed on the 3-point line, which played into the Mavericks' hands because they're like, okay, we can still get out to you. And even if we don't get out to you, if you take a 3, we can live with it because you're going to take a contested 3.
Yeah.
With someone closing. But you remember the last few minutes, of last 5 minutes of Game 6, he was getting alley-oop dunk after dunk after dunk because Shea in the mid-range, or, they have to like send someone else. They didn't really help on him too much, but they were, I think Lively and them were just putting an eye on him and trying to get the rebound, and he could sneak in and get the dunk. And that's how he got the dunk to take the lead until Shea fouled PJ for 3.
Yeah.
And that was a foul, right?
It was a foul. And
okay.
Shea went to the podium and said, I fouled him. It was my fault. I will get better.
See, that's the good thing about him. I think he does take responsibility, although he acts like a kid at times when he's with the dog pound thing that they do,
He does.
Yeah. I mean, and that silly commercial that no one likes.
Well, what's the worst? Commercial going down the stairs?
Yeah,
that commercial is not good. I don't know what that's all about.
The What a Girl Wants one?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually pretty bad.
How these things come out of, there's been a lot of meetings and production stuff going on, and they make that. Maybe they're trying to tap into a demographic that's not us, man. Maybe they're trying to get to somebody else,
I'm almost thinking Shea just said, hey, how about we do this? Sometimes he comes up with the idea. The stars come up with the ideas and no one tells them no.
True.
But because it's such a bad commercial, we all know what it is.
That's true.
Sometimes the bad ones are like you were saying about the Angel Reese thing. Sometimes you need to be memorable. Like you have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's marketable mainly because of what she did. We're going back to the WNBA thing, but I'm just saying, would she have the endorsement she'd have if she didn't do what she did to Caitlyn?
Probably not.
Yeah,
But she's
and
maximizing. If there's anybody that's not Caitlin Clark that's maximizing their endorsement potential, it's Angel Reese. I see her everywhere.
And the thing about it is, what I tell people, they're like, oh, you know, some people that think that, oh, they only like Caitlyn because she's white. There's been a lot of white, like Sabrina's white.
A lot.
So is who's the Brianna Stewart, who won championship. She's white. No one gives a crap. It's the style of play.
It's that shooting at three. It's
and
like
it's also
baseball. People want to
no. I'll throw out another level to it that people don't think about. It's because she went to a small school that's not a powerhouse school, and she dominated there and almost won a championship there. Similar to Davidson with Steph Curry.
Yep.
If Steph Curry played at Duke like his brother did, I don't think he would have as many fans that loved him before he got to the NBA. After he got to the NBA, it's totally different, obviously. But it's also like if Caitlin Clark played at UConn or LSU with Kim Mulkey or whatever it is, she wouldn't have as much fans because they like the underdog story of her playing on a crappy college team that never amounted to anything before her. People love that underdog story, and it happened with Jeremy Lin.
Yeah,
because he played at Harvard.
I remember that. Machado asked the question. Y'all ready for WNBA Select? We can also talk about Prism. Do you think that's stuff? You think people gonna be looking for that?
Oh, for sure. It's gonna be super hot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't tell any. I mean, how much do you think a Caitlin Clark?
I want to see what a Caitlin Clark Prism Gold is going to be selling for.
But who has the Is the WA deal part of the NBA deal, licensing deal, or are they separate?
I think it is. I don't know.
That would be interesting because, yeah, people would actually open packs this year.
Yes, they will.
Because there's not only one. I mean, that's the other thing. Why isn't so other people think it's because of looks. I was like, Caitlin Clark, to me, is, my opinion is she's not hotter than that girl from Sparks, the one that looks like Cameron Brink.
So, Brink is also a player that's doing a lot of endorsements, and you see her in a lot of different lines. She's doing fashion, she's doing some makeup, she's doing other stuff.
Yeah, so I've gone to a point where people just can't figure out why someone has it. Some people just have that it factor, and it transcends.
Yeah, actually, this is something I haven't heard. This might be a hot take, people. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about. Does Caitlin Clark have the personality to wear that crown? She seems like she wants to be to herself. She doesn't like the limelight. She doesn't like all this talking. She almost like Kevin Durant. She just wants to hoop. I don't know if her personality is suited for the limelight.
So Kevin Durant actually has a bad personality. People don't like him.
People don't like him, but he always says, "I just want to hoop."
I think people don't like him is because he says that, but he doesn't mean it. And he's, remember how he went on Twitter and So he does care what people think. He just says he doesn't care, but he gets butthurt a lot. Yeah. But I think her personality is almost like Steph. It's just, Steph doesn't talk much. He lets his game do the talking. It's similar to it.
At a press conference, looking down, rubbing their face. These are all signs that I don't want to have any part of this.
So you seen her do that? I haven't watched any press conferences.
I watch post game on big players. I watch post game all the time, and I'm looking at body language. Definitely in the NBA, I'm reading all nonverbals that I can get my hands on about players, and you almost they can't hide who they are after the game. I guess going through the game, going through the locker room, taking a shower. You sit down, you just want to answer these questions. Just like I always tell people, Cam Newton completely changed in Super Bowl 50 when he lost the Super Bowl and he got up and left the podium. He became a different person.
Yeah.
He was sitting there, they were asking him questions. He gets up and leaves. Another Cam Newton was born.
Yeah. Most of the good quarterbacks that come back and end up winning a Super Bowl after they lose, they take it like a man and say, yeah.
You got to take those questions. That's a part of the process. And even Deion Sanders told him at the time, you just messed up because that's not what you do when you want to go to the next level. If you want to go to the next level, you got to answer those questions and sit there. You got to be Jordan. I remember Jordan used to get beat down by the Pistons. He would come to midcourt, have that interview on the court, answer all those questions. Go to the post game, answer all those questions. You can't hide from that. If you do that,
that's how you can tell if you're a true superstar. A true superstar, even if they're not responsible for their loss, they take responsibility. Because you know what? If they win, they get the credit.
That's right.
So if you're going to get the credit, you got to be able to be willing, even if you don't think you were wrong and you played a hell of a game and you left your heart out there, you still take the responsibility for your teammates because you are the superstar. You're the one making $50 million while everyone else is.
This is the part of sports today that is lost. We don't see these young players doing this.
Well, it's also because of, I think, society in general.
I agree.
Kids don't take responsibility because as I think that this generation's parents have failed their kids because they tell them how great they are. Mm-hmm. My generation, my parents told me how bad I was. Not that because they don't love you, but because they want you to work on everything that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, like before I got on this live, Junior is asking me. I don't know if you've met my son Junior yet. You will in the future. He's 8 years old, and he's asking me about how his behavior was today because his behavior was not great yesterday. And so I told him he just started a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. He went to class on Tuesday. He was just walking around, acting like he didn't want to be there. I said, well, let's see what your behavior is like on Wednesday when you go. Let me see if you're going to come at it. Do you want it? Or are you just there? And he kind of gave me a blank stare. And I know kids in his class are probably not getting that feedback in multitude. I'm not saying I'm the rarest parent out there, but I know most of the people in his class is probably not giving that kind of feedback. But I try to raise him as much as I can, probably like how I was raised when it comes to feedback and looking for consistency. I talk to him about that all the time. Your behavior in school, your behavior here at home, later your behavior at work. People going to look for consistency. So.
Yeah. So the problem with today is, parents are blaming others for their kids' failures instead of themselves or their kids. If you're not making a shot or you're not getting playing time, it's the coach's fault. It's never your kid's fault, right? And so a lot of that generation of kids grow up thinking, I did everything right. It's my teammate's fault. It's this person's fault. And they point fingers. So that's why when you're saying some of these players don't take responsibility, it's because they've been coddled and taught that way their whole career. Whereas that's the good thing about Lucas. I think he's been a pro since he was 13. So you learn, I think you learn growing up.
And then his father was an excellent player. So
yeah,
when
so
you have
like every game when he loses, he says it's my fault. I didn't play well. Even if he had a 40-point triple double.
He's done an excellent job of that this year. When they lost a few games early in the playoffs, he just said, I gotta be better for Kyrie. I gotta be better for my teammates.
So let me answer your other question. You said, what other sport? I'm a Bears fan.
Okay.
And
Caleb?
See, now that you tell me all that stuff about responsibility, Caleb doesn't look like a guy.
He
looks more like he's more Cam Newton than Patrick Mahomes in terms of responsibility. Because every time they've lost at USC, it doesn't seem like he's the one saying, I played a bad game. I got to do better. I haven't heard him say that.
I don't think he's going to be a good player.
He's a Bears quarterback. That's already like 2 strikes against them.
What do you think about Justin Fields? Who do you think is going to have a better long-term career? Caleb Williams or Justin Fields?
Caleb Williams would be better. As a Bears fan, Justin Fields cannot play that position. He takes way too long to make a decision in the pocket. So they say, oh, he has no pass protection. When you're holding the ball too long, you're not going to have any pass protection. And I mean, there's videos of him that he just can't read a defense.
Oh, he's back there chilling. But I just wonder if Tomlin can put some life back into his development and teach him how to actually play the position in the NFL.
Well, I wouldn't know, and you wouldn't know, because in actuality, when I started watching that show, Quarterbacks on Netflix, then I learned how a quarterback, you got to live, breathe, eat football. You got to be studying game film
all day.
You remember the Jamarcus Russell story about they gave him a game tape and he never watched it, and then Kyler Murray.
You're passive. If you want to go out and kick it with your friends, you're not an NFL quarterback.
And you remember the Kyler Murray story, like when he would play video games all night when there was a tournament of whatever game he was playing. I think it was Call of Duty or whatever. When there's a Call of Duty tournament before the game, he would have his worst games because he's not home studying game film.
Doesn't work. And remember, they put that in his contract, and then they tried to take it out.
Well, that's the rumors, right? That's how we all found out about it, that he was playing Call of Duty too much. And then another one. So the one that my example was, it's kind of funny, was Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, never really won the big games and the big playoff games. But on NFL quarterbacks, he was saying, "Oh, on Tuesdays, I don't go to the practice. The team watches film. Tuesday is family day. I spend it with my wife and kids every Tuesday." And I'm like,
I hate to say this.
This guy is not going to win. That's what I told myself right then and there.
Not happening.
I was like, if you're not, I mean, you bring your wife and kids you spend time with them during the off season or something, you gotta, during the season, you got to be studying game film right after the game. You got to go to practice, work with your receivers, especially after a loss. I think he was quoted saying, "I don't care what happens. Tuesday's my day off because it's family time."
I agree.
I mean, I respect him for spending time with his family. I mean, maybe his goal is to make money and take care of his family for generations, but it's not to win a Super Bowl with that thinking.
But I'll say this, I support family. And if that's what you decide to do, the reality is you're most likely not going to win anything. And if you're cool with that, and you're cool with that and getting paid, getting generational wealth, and we can't argue with that, and you move on, then more power to you. But if you're not in this up to your neck or your nose in football, you're not winning.
Especially football. Football, like for a quarterback, is all about watching tendencies of a defense on film. I mean, you've seen it where a quarterback would know what a pass rusher is going to do based on how he's lined up or how much weight he's leaning one certain way. I mean, I think you told me you played football, so you would if you're lined up against someone and you study enough of him, you're like, okay, I know he's going to do this.
Yeah. To me, the two positions in football is Mike linebacker and quarterback. You got to know football, and you got to know what is happening with everybody on the field. I played right guard. As I got better and knowing the game, as a guard, I could look at a safety and know what defense they're playing. Now, my freshman year, I didn't know that. But as I got more savvy with the game, I could look at the Mike linebacker, the safety, and then look at on my side, the right corner. I knew what defense they were playing. And definitely my quarterback knew because he loved studying football. So if you're not like that, and then you got to think you go to the NFL, you got the best of the best running around. If you're not built like that, that's not how you really get down, it's going to show itself.
So that's why when you ask me about Fields, he's had 4 years now. This will be his fourth year.
Different coaches, different offense coordinators. He's never really been in the right system. Under Tomlin, he has no more excuses. If we don't see something out of him, he's going to enter the game this year at some point playing quarterback. If we don't see something out of him, it's a wrap.
But I also think the hardest thing to teach someone is work ethic. You either have it, you got to put in the time. Some people the
problem is that most of these players are in how would I say it correctly? They're in a very familiar and easy to learn college offense. Very easy to learn. We want to run so many sets. We want to run so many plays out of those sets. When you get to the NFL, it's a whole nother ball of wax. So you got guys coming from high school, sitting at Ohio State, and they only run so many different ways of how they're going to run the run or run this certain pass or run three receivers to this side. And then so they only know so much of football. Then you get to the NFL, and you like drinking out of a water hose.
Well, I used to make this claim that anyone from Ohio State, a starting quarterback from Ohio State, always sucks. Mm-hmm. But maybe Stroud is proving us wrong.
Hopefully he does. Hopefully he does. I know we got 16 weeks, 17, 18 weeks of film on Stroud now.
Yeah, that is the thing about quarterbacks in the NFL. A lot of the young quarterbacks that think, like, remember how good Baker Mayfield was his rookie year? And then also, Kyler Murray his rookie year. A lot of these guys are like, okay, these guys are going to be people buying football cards. Oh, this guy's going to be a stud or whatever it is. But once they study film and they know his tendencies, like when he looks to the right, he's going to throw right. Then they're just not even going to cover. They're going to cheat that direction. And
see, the greats continue to evolve. The Brady's, the Peyton Mannings, the others. They continue to, the Aaron Rodgers, the Brett Favre's. They continue to evolve. So as you do something, after a year or two, I'm going to change and start doing this. And then you can never catch up. Like a Steph Curry, you can't catch up to him. He's so advanced. Or LeBron James, they're so advanced now that they're coaching and seeing stuff on the court while you're doing it. So I'm going to react now. I don't need to go back to the locker room and get on the whiteboard. I'm going to react right now, and I'm going to tell my team around me.
FD, one day, instead of you saying Steph Curry, it's going to be Luka Doncic or LeBron James.
This
it's going
brother,
to be.
he's got to win 4 or 5 rings.
Yeah,
he got to be
let's win that first ring this year.
I believe he can get it. I'm actually rooting for him because I can't root for Boston. So I hope him and Kyrie. And it's going to be a great story for Kyrie. You win one without LeBron. You go back to Boston and you beat them. It erases a lot of stuff that people have said about him that I thought at the time was not Kyrie.
So what do you think Boston will do if hypothetically
I've asked
the Mavs win it all? Are they going to break it up?
Tatum and Brown have to go somewhere. One of them has to go somewhere. They have to, especially if somebody disappears like Tatum did in 2022. Somebody has to go somewhere. You can't shoot 30% and lead your team in turnovers. You got to go somewhere.
Brown actually showed up for that series, I think.
He did.
I think he averaged like 30 or something, right?
That's right. He was by himself. Steph Curry played better defense than Marcus Smart, who was the Defensive Player of the Year. Brown was on an island by himself.
Yeah, so if they break it up, I don't see them ever trading Tatum. And Brown will be tough to deal because he's getting paid, what, $60 million a year?
The money is
something
high.
Crazy. So that's going to be difficult.
Brown is greater than Tatum. We'll see. It kicks off in 2 days.
I mean, Brown scares me more than Tatum because Tatum can be dealt with. If his shot is on, there's nothing you can do with Tatum.
I agree.
But how often is he going to be on? I'm betting that he won't be on 4 out of 7 games.
Also, if you apply some real deal defense to Tatum, he's not going to be on.
Yeah, and the Mavs have that length to do that to him.
And as
PJ, I mean, so you've actually been able to watch the Mavs this playoffs, especially against OKC. I'm sure you watched every single game. Mm-hmm. That length of PJ and Derrick Jones Jr. is going to be difficult for Brown and Tatum. So they keep saying, like, who's going to guard Brown and Tatum? Those guys can match up well with Brown and Tatum.
If you throw Jones out on Tatum, that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know who's better because PJ's taller and longer, but Jones is quicker.
You know they're going to throw different people at him. They're going to throw some size and quickness, and they're going to make him work. And then Brown's going to have to do his thing. That's where I think the series is going to go. They're going to make Tatum work for it.
Yeah, so when I say I fear Brown more is because he's a better slasher than Tatum.
Yeah,
Tatum, with his handles and all that, he really can't get by anyone.
Mm-hmm. His first step is very slow.
His best move is the push-off.
That's right.
You see, where he shoves someone. Yeah, they never call it on him.
Yeah.
I mean, Luka does it, but Luka does a little – it's not as fully extended. It's more like, Shea does the same thing. All guards do that. But they don't fully extend their arm. Tatum fully extends it. They don't call it on him, and that's the times he gets by people. And but Brown has just more power, and then he can dunk on you. I mean, Tatum can dunk on you too, but I'm just saying, it's just I don't know. I fear Brown a little bit more because I know if Brown is hitting their shots, he can make a difference. Whereas Tatum, if he scores 30. As long as no one else kills you, I think you will be okay. Because he gets his 30 kind of like he doesn't do it like Luka. When Luka scores his 30, totally different than when Tatum scores his 30.
Look at this comment from Machado. What? Drew Holiday Finals MVP. That's actually funny, man. If that happens, Machado, you got a gift coming your way.
If you think that, you can just place a bet.
That's right.
And it's probably like 100 to 1, and you'll be rich.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm rooting.
Luka is moving his feet and trying to get in front of people on the defensive end. I've seen that. So I've
seen that for the most part, except when his knee is bothering him.
Yeah, true.
So I mean, if you probably saw it for the second half of the OKC series, because the first 3 games he didn't have that lift in his knee, and he kept. He kept limping. So the last 3 games, he wasn't more himself.
And then who was that? Dort or someone was tripping him a couple of times.
Dort, your guy Dort was. Dort does the Derek Fisher play where he runs into a screen full speed, and of course, your leg's gonna move if you're running right into your leg. Yeah. But Dort falls. While the center, Lively or Gafford, doesn't fall, and they call that foul every time, and it's obviously a flop. It's not good basketball. I hate that.
I agree.
It's like, I mean, okay, that's the reason I told you I didn't like Shea. The guy flops and sells the calls way too much. Luka sells calls, but he's actually getting hit, whereas Shea is literally falling to the ground on every little contact. Granted, he's not as big and strong as Luka, but it's just he's almost the Embiid of foul baiting, but as at a guard position.
You know, Shea is coming, man. He's gonna get it. He's gonna get something done.
Well, they need to do a consolidation trade.
What's up?
They have too many picks and too many good players. Not a great player.
They gotta clean it up. I've said this to a few people. Those picks don't mean anything unless you turn it into a player.
Now, since you mentioned that, how about if Boston doesn't win, they consolidate and try to get a Brown or Tatum for like 3 guys?
That may happen. They're going to bring a big name to OKC.
Because he needs, if Shea has a Brown or Tatum, that they need someone else. Because literally, when I was watching that series, I was like, no one else can really hurt the Mavs. Like, no one could create. I mean, Jalen.
You think Jay Will's the real deal? I think he has a lot to learn.
Well, not this series. That series, he was awful until the last game or two.
I think he has a lot to learn. I think he'll learn it. He has a lot to
learn. I also think, keep in mind, who was Jalen Williams guarding?
Who was
he guarding? Kyrie the whole game.
Yeah,
he had him on Kyrie to start. I mean, he didn't need an oxygen. He didn't need an oxygen tank, right?
Yeah, he did play to start. But this is the stuff you have to go through. You have to understand this is not. If you're the number 1 seed in the West, that's cool. That's an accomplishment. But we got to do more than that. So,
but Jalen did a great job on Kyrie. Kyrie played terrible that series.
He did.
So, I mean, maybe his offense wasn't there is because he was chasing him down and he got tired and fatigued and lost his legs for offense, which is what that's the problem with Boston. Who are they going to chase Kyrie around?
I think Boston's going to struggle, man, big time. But we will see in a minute here.
If they put Tatum or Brown on Luka or Kyrie, they might draw. Okay, not with Kyrie because he doesn't draw fouls, but I'm just saying they're gonna be tired on offense.
Yeah,
I don't know who did. I didn't watch too much of that series. Who did Tatum guard for him to shoot 37% against the Warriors? He wasn't chasing Curry through screens, was he?
He played Curry sometimes. Sometimes he was on Clay. Sometimes he was on Wiggins.
So. Those guys,
they made him work, and that's what got him. You're young and you think I'm just about to run and run. It's not happening like that.
From what I hear, they're going to put him on Lively or Gafford.
He's going to have all kind of problems on the defensive end. He's going to have all kind of problems with that.
Yeah, because the offensive rebounds are going to pour in. Hopefully,
this is my last question for you, Kelvin. What are you going to do when Dallas wins the championship?
Well. I have tickets. I don't have tickets. I booked my airline tickets for 3 and 4. So hopefully they win it in, which is a pipe dream of mine, win in 4. So I'm there to celebrate it. But I'm going to go to Vegas because I bet on the Mavericks.
Okay.
I bet them at 40-1. Mm-hmm. So I win roughly. I did some hedging on the Celtics, but I bet like enough to win like $90,000, like $2,500 to win like $90,000.
I'm rooting for you, man.
So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Then I'm going to throw a party. You're welcome to come. I'm going to pop a bottle of something nice, and we're going to drink to Mavs winning it all. I told them it's either Louis or it's going to be.
You tell me where the party's at. I'll be there.
No problem, man. We'll probably do it at a card shop if you want to, just because it's Luka, and I'll do a giveaway. I did a giveaway for my Luka jersey last week, but I'll probably do a bigger giveaway if the Mavs win it all. But I don't want to jinx it all. I'm very superstitious. So hopefully they win and we'll party in a couple weeks.
I hope it happens. I believe it's going to happen. Like I said, the story just I love the finals because it helps people take their career to another step if you take advantage of it. And I think this is a story that could take Luka to another step, take Kyrie definitely to the Hall of Fame and start polishing his career off. And erase a lot of stuff, man. A lot of stuff. People have said a lot of stuff about Kyrie.
Now, this is the reason why people hate on LeBron. Almost every time, you've been watching the NBA Finals enough, almost every single time, the best player in the series is going to win the championship.
True.
The exception is the Golden State was a better team. LeBron was a better player.
Uh-huh.
But unless you argue Curry is better than him, but I really can't do that with.
Well, you know what I think.
What do you think? Curry's better?
Curry's going to have a better legacy and is a better player overall than LeBron James.
So you think during those three times? Yeah, the 3 times they beat the Cavs that he or the Heat. No, it was the Cavs all 3 times. That Curry was a better player than LeBron?
I think 2 of the 3, yes.
Well, I guess the other 2, you could say Kevin Durant was the best player on the court.
So this is when people talk to me about Kevin Durant and Golden State. Kevin Durant was a hired hand. Kevin Durant came in and was allowed to do exactly what he wanted to do. Didn't have to play exceptional defense. Really didn't have to do anything but shoot your lights out. And that's what he likes to do. That's the only thing he really wants to do is just to play the 3, not the 4, and shoot your lights out. And I think it takes an exceptional player. We've seen in today's environment a lot of players arguing over the ball. That never happened with Curry and Durant because Curry is that kind of player. It did
at the end of the run. I still remember Curry giving him that look and then Draymond yelling at him.
That was more Draymond. Curry's not about that. It's more Draymond. And even if you watch the film when they were arguing, Klay Thompson tries to sit down between them and tell them to stop this, and they keep it going. So Klay and Curry are peaceful kind of basketball players until you rile them up. Draymond comes in riled up. And he wanted to prove a point to Durant that we don't need you, bro. You're not saved. You're not the Caitlin Clark of this team. We don't need you like that. We were winning here in 2015, and we're going to win after you left, and that's what they did. But the beauty would have been if Durant could have stayed, how many championships would they have ran off? That's the beauty.
Well, they did run off one right after he left.
Yes, but I'm saying, let's say he would have stayed. Nobody else.
No, but even if he stayed, the first year he didn't play because remember he tore his Achilles.
Yeah,
that was the year I think. It's in the Lakers. That was the bubble year that he sat out. Right, he sat out the whole bubble year.
The year he sat out because he tore it against Toronto. Yep.
Yeah, and then the following year, I guess he did come back, so they might have won that year because Milwaukee ended up winning. I didn't even know what Golden State didn't make the playoffs that year.
No, did not. And that's the year they got Wiseman.
Yeah, that was the year Curry was out most of the season. So
yeah,
I guess they wouldn't have won that year either. So which year could they have ran off though?
It'd been interesting to see Durant with no Curry, fully healed. I don't know. We'll
What's
never
Phoenix going to do? That's another thing they can do. Oklahoma City could get Durant, bring him back to.
You know what I think, Kelvin? Some people don't think so. I think Durant's going back to Golden State. Know where you heard it first.
We'll see.
And
I mean, the West is so stacked.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually worried. There's going to be a team that's super good next year in the West that's not going to even make the playoffs. Whether it be the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors, the San Antonio Spurs might be good next year. Who knows if they get a few players? The Houston Rockets. That's why they got to move some teams over to the East or move some players over.
Yesterday and said that he guarantees playoff run. So we'll see what Houston does.
Yeah, Houston. There's a lot of young up and coming teams. That's why they're like That's why it's like Boston still don't need to break anything up because they got a free ride to the finals almost every year in that East.
They might take that because Sacramento didn't do anything to their team. Not one thing. They brought in JaVale McGee, and that was it. Machado asked the question, did y'all hear Gilbert Arenas say Curry is not a generational talent? I didn't even really acknowledge that. I don't even know what Gilbert says stuff, and he's admitted this on his podcast.
To get clicks, clickbait.
Just to say stuff. So he's
been hating on all the Euros. He even flat out said European players have ruined the NBA.
But think about this, though. When Steph was there, he basically said Steph was greater than Magic Johnson. While he was sitting there, he said that.
It depends on what your definition of generational talent is. Because I think he was trying to say that what Curry does, I mean, I think it's a terrible argument, isn't a talent. Shooting the way he does can be learned. It's not like it's not a born talent. That's probably what he meant.
Yeah,
because Shaq is born with size and quickness.
Yeah, he was talking about Shaq, Wemby, and LeBron. And he said Curry.
So they're born with – so he's talking about natural born talent, not something you work on. What Curry does is all –
no one has ever before Gilbert defined generational talent that way.
I don't think that's what it means because
No.
Kobe wasn't the most talented, but he
Not
worked
at
on
all.
it.
Put that work
And
in.
work ethic is something you're born with too. So people don't think that.
That's right.
Work ethic is one of the most important things because if you don't have that ethic, how many players have you seen with generational talent never turn out because they don't have that work ethic part of the talent?
Absolutely.
So many.
Look at Kwame Brown.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure he had generational, but there's a lot of examples that he could be one of them.
Yeah.
Football, especially football. The guys that can run 4.2 but can't catch a ball because they don't work on it.
That's true. Remember James Jett with the Bears back in the day?
He was on the Raiders, I thought.
He would play with the Bears too. Could run a streak, couldn't run any other route.
Yeah. I mean,
just like that sometimes.
Yep. So it's not necessarily your generational talent. It's all definition, but I think you're right. Gilbert is just trying to say things to get clicks. And that's what everyone does these days.
And his podcast is not doing that well. I watch a lot of podcasts and I check out the views. And you can see when views are down, people start doing certain things. And Gilbert does that. And his podcast is a yell fest. So imagine you and I on here just yelling at each other. That's what they do. And they think that's, and then you got a lot of guys who are like C-rated players who are talking about greatness.
Oh, Patrick Beverly?
Yeah. Well, you got McCants on there, and you got the other guard from Milwaukee who got hurt, who was a good player. But you're still not, to me, you got to be on the level of greatness to start talking about greatness when it comes to playing in the NBA. And I don't know if I see it from these guys.
That's why I'm not a fan of Brunson because he's doing that podcast all the time now these days. I want your player.
I saw him.
Yeah, him, Hart, and DiVincenzo.
If I was a player, I'm going to Steph Curry route. Klay Thompson, I don't want to have anything to do with that. Let me retire.
It's terrible.
Let me retire. Then I start talking. Other than that, I'm playing ball.
Yeah, Draymond too. I mean, you literally should be. I mean, he's giving away too much stuff.
I believe somebody must have talked to Draymond because this offseason he's working a lot. You go from TNT to your overseas at a soccer championship, talking soccer and sports in general. Draymond's trying to work on something after sports. But I think when you're on the Steph Curry level, you don't have to work on that.
The problem with Draymond is I think he hurt his brand by hating on Gobert so much during this TNT stint.
I don't know why he did that.
Well, we know why, because he thinks he should be a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, not a 1-time Defensive Player of the Year.
But Draymond, you got to know you have 4 rings, man. So everybody doesn't get everything. You got 4 rings.
And for some reason, every NBA player hates Rudy. I don't know what it is, except his teammates.
He talks a lot. He's not on that level, but he talks a lot during the game. And he does this thing with the refs. They're being paid off. He does that kind of stuff that annoys people. And if you're not on that level, please don't do that. But then you're going to get talked about.
Yeah, here's a generational talent that had no work ethic. I used to collect him, was Ben Simmons. That's one of my least favorite players now because how do you go from never improving from your rookie year to now? Actually getting worse.
You know what? I think he's one of these players. I've told people this. He's the player, and we're going to see more of them, Kelvin, that only cares about the dollar.
Yep.
They don't care about getting better. They don't care about these awards. They don't care about Hall of Fame. They care about generational wealth. So think about how much money this guy has picked up for doing nothing. And that's the only thing he cares about. You got to think, how do you not play all season, but then you come out of you come out at the Met Gala, G'd up, but you haven't played all season. That's because you only care about certain things, man. And even in the games he didn't play, they were adding up his wardrobe every night. It's a crazy amount of money. But he's just sitting there. Some guys come out with a fancy hoodie on and some sweats. Some guys come out like him.
Well, hopefully when we talk in a couple of weeks, Luka's got a ring.
Hey, I got to have you back on during the finals at some point for a short amount of time. But just to get your thoughts, maybe after game 3.
Okay, I'll be in Dallas, but as long as I have internet, it's fine.
Okay. You just let me know. We can get on for like 30 minutes. I just want to get your viewpoint.
I'm hoping with the Mavs up in the series after game 3, either 2-1 or 3-0. So I'll be in a much better mood. If they're down 3-0, it's going to be a funeral
Kevin,
when I'm talking to you.
I don't think that's going to happen. I would be shocked if they're down 0-3 after 3 games. I'm shocked. You got 2 of the best guys to ever play the point guard / 2 guard position, and I don't see you being down 0-3 against Boston. And people keep saying, like Austin Rivers said, well, Dallas has never played a team like this. Boston hasn't played any team like this in the playoffs.
16-1 to close the season. Just remember that.
They haven't seen that, so they've seen a lot of teams hurt.
And then it's the same narrative that these people, these talking heads are saying this whole time about Dallas. It's like, oh, they haven't played anyone good since as good as Boston, or they're saying, oh, they can't defend. I was like, if you're saying they can't defend, what have you been watching? Have you been watching?
But you got to think, this is what I think sometimes, Kelvin, even when Golden State played Boston, these talking heads have to say something to get people to watch. Think about this. I tell people this all the time. When Shannon Sharp was with Skip, he loved LeBron. Loved LeBron.
I thought he still loves LeBron.
Loved LeBron. Since he has moved on, he talks about LeBron not as a fan and not as a supporter, but actually as a reporter. His whole stance has changed. That's because when you're doing a debate show like him and Skip, you got to be against each other. So one person has to be for Brady, one person has to be against. One person has to be for LeBron, one person has to be against. But when you step out and you start doing podcasts and you start doing other things, right now Shannon is involved in like 3 or 4 different types of media. You can't be pro LeBron every day.
I'm okay with Shannon somewhat. At least he watches enough basketball, but Keyshawn's the worst.
Oh, he's horrible. To me,
he doesn't even know basketball. Like, he literally has never even watched a game. And just, I don't even know what he's saying most of the time.
Another guy I've met in person that has zero personality. Zero personality.
I don't even know how he's on TV. Where do they pick these guys?
He must have the hook. He must know someone or something because he's not good at what he does. He's just not good.
Actually, the talent has been pretty bad over in sports. You know,
because everybody's ex-athlete, the player that used to play, and some of these guys are going to be good at it, have the personality for it. Some of these guys are not going to be good at it.
I think that's one of the worst arguments I always hear people say. Okay, they will say like Kobe is the best or LeBron is the best because all the ex-players say that. All the ex-players know the least. They're the most biased out of all the players because you don't know as an ex-player, like you were saying about Draymond, if he hates Rudy Gobert or he hates a certain player, it's rooted in him. He's going to be biased against that player no matter what. And then most of them are biased to their own era. So let's say you ask someone from the 80s, they're all going to say Jordan and Magic. You have someone, in the 2000s, they're all going to say Kobe. You have someone more recent, they're going to say LeBron or Curry, whoever it is that they played with. So saying that the opinion of the next athlete matters more, it actually matters less to me because you can't take away their biases from the game. Or maybe the guy just knows that this guy's a dick or he's a jerk, So you're going to be against him.
It does sometimes. But the when you find that ex-athlete that challenges themselves to be the best journalist they can be, that's when you really have something.
The best, I think, is Tim Legler. I don't know if you've listened to his.
Legler is real good. I love the way he explains the game. And he's super knowledgeable at the game.
Yeah. So all the talking heads I listen to, Legler's also the one that picked the Mavs right away, but he turned out to be right. So it's just, but if you listen to the way he breaks it down, it's the way he breaks it down that I like it. It's not what he says at the end, who's going to win, but it's just how he, he's very knowledgeable. It's not like the Keyshawn or whoever else it is, even Kendrick, who just wants to, see Machado agrees with us, right? Tim Leggs is the best in the business for sure. Because he breaks down to every little part of the game. Like, why is Dallas good against this team? Because of the matchups, because of what they can do to force you into bad shots or into certain things, into going against what you like to do. So that's how you want to see someone broken down instead of someone just wants to say something viral so they can get, like Stephen A, obviously, who just wants to say something controversial so he can be all over Twitter.
Yeah, he's just talking. Machado says, this is a good one here. Kyrie got to bring that sage. He's going to bring that sage out game 1.
Now, would that be funny if, let's say, the Mavs won in 5 and they have the trophy presentation on top of Lucky?
Yeah,
where they put it in midcourt. And then Kyrie might do one last stomp at the end. I don't know. Once he's won it, Do you think he's going to go crazy and say
Nah, I think he's
"F you" to Boston, or do you think he's matured now?
I think he's matured.
I don't think he would either, but it would be funny if he did, though.
Would be. Big John says Ryan Clark is one of the best. He is. Ryan Clark does a very good job.
I mean, I haven't listened to Ryan Clark in basketball much, but he's really good in the football stuff.
Do you ever watch Pivot? You ever watch his podcast?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Oh,
I should try it out.
Excellent. To me, it's excellent. You got him. You got a few other football players around, but they all seem. What I love about ex-athlete is when you put some study in, when you actually watch something, do something, talk about something that you know, but also educate yourself on what's going on and who the players are. And to me, everybody on Pivot stays in the know on kind of what's going on, and they're able to speak to it.
By the way, an ex-athlete's about to be the coach of the Lakers, it looks like.
He'll be fired soon. Another hot take, people. He will be fired soon.
How soon? Within a year or two? What's your over-under?
3 seasons.
Oh, 3 seasons? No coach lasts 3 seasons under LeBron.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And while they sit today and laugh and joke, remember when Darvin Ham was laughing and joking with LeBron? And they both would turn their back on Russ? And then Darvin Ham found himself in the same situation, and JJ is going to find himself in the same situation.
The problem is LeBron doesn't want a coach that tells him what to do. He wants to be able to tell the coach what to do.
I don't understand why he coach your team like Bill Russell did. Just coach your team and play.
Because he would get all the blame if they lost. And LeBron don't want that. He don't want the smoke, right? You know that.
I always love it when he says, "Hey, I don't make these decisions. I don't make coaching decisions." Well, we all know you do, bro.
Because if the Lakers lost, and let's say they did really, really bad somehow, and LeBron's the coach and the star, who are they going to blame? There's no other person to blame.
They're going to blast?
I mean, they could throw Anthony Davis under the bus, but they couldn't after last series. Davis did his job.
Let me ask this question before I let you go, because I can have you on here all night. I love what you think.
My battery's about to die, so you got to do it. Hello?
What's this whole thing about him becoming pro, and what's the sense of urgency there?
Oh, Bronny? I think LeBron is calling the shots, and he wants to play with his son. He wants to have that Ken Griffey Sr., Ken Griffey Jr. moment.
That's not going to be good. Not going to be good.
And I think with Redick there, and then now that OKC just gave him, was it OKC that gave him the pick?
OKC, yeah.
So they gave him the pick. So now 17th pick is not too big of a gamble in a weak draft. Otherwise, they would have to trade in to the first round. But now they got their own pick.
But Bronny's not that guy, man. Just not that guy. He's a spot-up shooter at best. Just not that guy.
It's to make LeBron happy.
It's going to be sad in the long term to me. Let that guy play. Let him do his own thing. If it doesn't work out for him, it doesn't work out. If it does work out, then we all salute him. But pushing your child, to me, into something that he's not suited for that. I watched him at USC. Average at best. He shouldn't even been a McDonald's All-American averaging 15, 16 points a game his senior year of high school. He's not that guy.
He's got good father that can protect him and
more power
someone draft him.
Hate on him. So more power to him.
It's nepotism at its finest.
I just don't want a young person to suffer the consequences. We're talking about 15, 20 years from now. If this doesn't work out for him, where's he going to be at? What's he going to be doing?
Well, he's got generational wealth from his dad.
But but Kelvin, we've seen in the past,
last 2 generations.
Money, more problems.
Yeah.
But brother, I appreciate having you here, man.
No problem.
Excellent conversation. I was looking forward to this all day.
Yeah, no problem. I hope when we speak, the Mavs are up 2-1 or 3-0.
So do I. I'll hit you up in between. With a text or a DM, let you know what I'm thinking. But I'm going to be sitting here watching game 1. But before we get out of here, you saw the intro. I got to ask you, Kelvin, who you rolling with?
I'm rolling with FD. Now, question, what does FD stand for?
That's my name. That's my first
name. I
know.
What's your first? See, we only know you as FD. Like, how many people know your full name?
I'll tell you offline.
All right, no problem.
Yeah, but it's
all right. Thanks, FD.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate your time, man. Excellent setup. Thank you for giving me a tour. You have a beautiful area where you watch sports and enjoy yourself, man.
I want to thank you, man, because, when I first went up to you, I was like, this guy hates on Luka so much. What's his issue with him? Because all I see is your posts, I don't know.
of mine. I want to be able to see it. I want to see him win a ring, and then eventually I like to see him fight to get a second one.
Yeah. So at least I know you're gonna give them some credit once they win it, because you told me you're gonna post it.
Oh,
Let's see it.
Yeah, I'm a man of my word. I will. For real.
All right.
Sure.
All right.
Bro,
have a good evening, man.
I'll be in contact.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye. Keep rolling, people.